going on, guys? We're back out in the shop tonight. You can see we've got a mess going on here. We've had all sorts of projects going on. I got another one of these skids that I needed to split. I didn't bother doing a video about that because it's something you guys have already seen. Typically, if it's something you've seen, I don't make another video. But what we are going to be working on tonight is we got another reamer here. And this reamer, we just need to hard face. This is pretty common. He's brought me quite a few of these. This style where he just needs some hard face put on it. It keeps from wearing the reamer out, and it keeps from getting wear in certain areas that you don't want on here. So it's not a super complicated process on this one. This is probably going to be a pretty quick video, but we're going to get it over here on the table, get it set up, and I'll show you guys what I got planned for hard facing. Alright, so you can see here we got our reamer. I'm actually going to have to pull the bolts out of this, and there's some sort of a plastic deal inside there that helps it not get clogged up when they're drilling. Anyway, I got to make sure that's not in there or it'll melt, obviously. So I got to pull this cover off, make sure that piece is out. If it is out, I got to put that back on. I'm going to have to hit the whole thing with a wire wheel, clean up the steel. You can see there's a couple spots here that have already been hard faced. And they actually have, I'm not sure what kind of hard facing that is, but it looks like it's got chunks of carbide in it. I'm sure it's good stuff. It's from the factory. It's getting so worn down that it is to the base metal on the ends. So we're gonna have to overlay that, and I'm gonna do some hard face patterns on the ends here. There are some spots where I can't go past here and here, and that's where they screw on the couplings on either end. So I can't go past that mark. And then it looks like on this end it needs a little bit of buildup here. So I may have to address that. That looks worn down to me, to the point where it does need some buildup. It's something that he didn't address when he was here. He didn't ask me to do. But I'm pretty sure if I asked him, he'd say, yeah, just do it. So I'm going to go ahead and build that up, and then I'll hard face over the top of it. The other good thing with that is I've got to preheat it. And so if I preheat that and build it up, then most of the heat's going to soak down into this. And I may not have to do a whole lot of preheating once I get this built up, because the heat's going to soak down into this, and it'll be pretty warm by the time I'm done with that. So hopefully I won't have to burn a bunch of gas to preheat. I typically like to do that when I work on a project like this. If there's something that I've got to build up, I usually do that first, because that transfers the heat throughout the whole part, and then I'm able to go ahead and continue welding on the part without having to preheat it. So let's go ahead, and first I'm going to hit it with a grinder, clean it up, and then I'm going to go ahead and preheat this and just build that up real quick. It shouldn't take too long. They're not terrible. I've definitely seen worse. It'll take a little bit of time. I'm not going to put you guys through that. I'll probably just go into warp mode and go ahead and fill these up, and then we'll go to that point. Okay, so I'm going to give you guys a quick update here. I just realized that I am out of my usual welding wire that I use to build this up. Luckily, I do keep a couple spools of just random stuff laying around that people give me or whatever, and I've got this Hobart Fabcore 86R. It's just been sitting in my cupboard, so I'm going to use it. It's a metal core wire. I've ran metal core before. I just prefer dual shield, but in a pinch this is going to work just fine. I know a lot of people that use the metal core stuff for build up on stuff like this. So because it's what I have, it's what I'm going to use. It's currently Saturday, so all the welding stores are closed, so I won't be getting any of my usual stuff, and the customer needs this by Monday. So we're going to go ahead and try out the Fabcore 86R, see how it does, and build this up right here. So I'm just going to jump into warp mode. I'm going to clean this up with a wire wheel, preheat it, and then I'll just jump right into welding and build it up. We'll go to that point.
It's time for today's super cool tool.
Alright guys, so for today's super cool tool, I decided to talk about a needle scaler. Needle gouger, needle gun. There's a lot of names for this tool, but this is a pretty handy, pretty common tool for welders and fabricators. And the main use for this tool is if you're knocking the slag off your weld, or if you've just cut something with a torch and you got a bunch of slag hanging on the corner or something, you can take this, and what it is it's a pneumatic tool, and it's got a bunch of needles here. Those needles drive forward and backward pneumatically. If you're having to knock a whole bunch of slag off, it makes it really nice. I just wanted to give you guys a closer look at what these look like. So you can see most of them just have a lever. If they're the straight kind, they have a lever. If they're the angled kind, they have a trigger most of the time. And I've just got a 1/4 inch quick connect on mine because that's what I run in my shop. And then I can give you a look at what it looks like when they're running. You can feel them shooting back and forth. Just wanted to give you guys a closer look. So this one here is an Ingersoll Rand. I've had really good luck with it. It is the more industrial model. It's pretty big. It is pretty heavy. They do make some smaller ones that are a little bit less cumbersome, but a lot of the stuff I do is pretty industrial, so I figured this would probably be the best option for me. They do make some that come in a 90, so it looks like a gun and it has a trigger on it. If you guys watch Icy Weld, he uses one that's got a 90 on it, and you just pull a trigger. I believe the one he uses is just a Cobalt from Lowe's. I've never tried using I don't know if Husky makes one, but I would imagine they probably do. I've never tried the Lowe's brand or the Home Depot brand or anything like that. This was just what I got because I think at the time I was shopping on Zorro Tools, and that's where I ended up getting it. So this one's been really good for me. I have not had to change the needles in it yet. Most of them come with a spare set of needles. This one did, and I still have the spare set of needles in the drawer because usually what happens is they mushroom on the end, and it'll just, unless you're super rough with it, they'll just gradually mushroom and kind of wear down, and then they'll end up getting so short that you got to change them. Unless you get really Western with it, and then you're snapping them off and stuff and bending them, and that's not good. That probably means you're being a little too rough with it. So these typically run from, I would say, around 75 bucks if you look at like Home Depot or Lowe's, clear up to. They are a very useful tool, and if you do a lot of chip and slag, you may want to look into one. Like I said, sizes vary. I know Ingersoll Rand does make a smaller one, but obviously its capabilities are a little bit less too. I would say one of the downfalls is that it is pneumatic, and when I say it's a downfall, it just means that you have to have a compressor, and you probably want a compressor that can keep up. So that's just another one of those things where it's a handy tool, but you got to have other tools to help you use this tool. So that is one thing about pneumatics that is kind of tough. You know, you got to have a decent compressor to run a lot of these tools. So if you're interested in getting a needle scaler or a needle gouger, then I would first look into getting a decent compressor that can have output to run a lot of these tools. So that's our needle gouger, needle scaler, needle gun. They've got a lot of names. This has definitely come in handy for me. It speeds up the work because you're able to just chip that stuff right out. Whereas when you're using a chipping hammer, it takes a lot longer. This just really helps you speed things up and makes it easier on you as the welder or fabricator. So go ahead and check them out. If you have any questions, drop it in the comment section below, and we'll get back to the project. I'm going to give you guys a look here at what I've done. So I've built up these corners and hard faced them. I've done a zigzag pattern on the shank and the tail end because they wanted some hard facing there. I did just a polka dot pattern down this plate because it needs to be removed sometimes, and I didn't want to get too much heat on it or I would have warped it. I overlaid every one of these. These were original hard facing lines and they were pretty wore out, so I just overlaid them. Just laid another bead right over the top. So you can see if you look down this that it's built back up. It's probably a little bit past factory, but it was a lot less than factory when I got it, so hopefully that'll give them a lot more life on this. Like I said, this was going to be a pretty quick video. Hard facing it's time consuming, and it's probably not all that exciting for you guys to watch because it's just basically laying out a pattern and then going over my pattern. And just so you guys know, the way I do it is I'll take a Sharpie and I'll make a design on it, and then I just weld right over the top of my Sharpie marks, and that's what I end up with. And I like to do a design first with a Sharpie. I like my designs to be symmetrical if I can help it. So that's just kind of how I did it. So that's gonna wrap up the reamer and the hard facing. In case some of you were wondering, all the spatter here, I used to take and grind that off, and the customer kind of got mad at me for that. They said, don't waste all that time knocking the spatter off, because we're just going to put it right back in the ground, and the spatter's only going to help things because it's rough. So they told me just to leave it, and after them getting after me a couple times, I like to grind it off because I want it to look nice, but you got to remember it's going back in the ground and it's used for drilling, so they want it as rough as possible. That's part of the reason they want hard facing, is they want a profile there so that it kind of distributes the abrasion on the bit. So anyway, that's gonna wrap this one up. I appreciate you guys watching. I hope you learned something. This one here was pretty simple, but for those of you guys who haven't seen hard facing or anything, now you have, and hopefully you learned something to where if you need to do it in the future, you got an idea where to start. So appreciate you guys watching, and we'll see you on the next one.